my booktube. So I know it's a little bit late to be doing an April wrap up, but as I mentioned in my last video, I have been on vacation and I just got back on Friday, so I didn't have any time to do any reading really on that trip. And like I was mentioning before, like watching booktube videos and making booktube videos, unfortunately. But I still had a great time on the trip. It was nice to do lots of socializing with family and friends, and get out of my normal box of things. But I'm back to the grindstone of working and reading, which I wouldn't call that a grindstone. But so hopefully I'll read more in May, but we'll see. So I have a variety of things here in front of me. I have my tablet to show you some of the book covers, and a pile of books, and a notebook where I'm trying to keep track of each month the books I have hauled and unhauled, books like physical books I've read, ebooks, and what else, and then if I'm participating in any readathons. And I have been trying, like in the back of my mind, to like keep track of the amount of money I have spent. But on this trip, I got rid of all of my receipts when I went to California. That's where I spent my book, money of the my budget for the month. Went to that, but then I didn't keep the receipts, so I can only guess at how much money I spent. I would say, one second. Let me see. So, okay, I purchased around 20 books, and I didn't even count them because right after doing the book haul the other day, I immediately put them into my shelves without tallying it up. But I would say it was roughly 20 books, and I probably didn't spend more than $50 or $60. I don't buy books I try not to buy books that are like $10 and more. I try to go like $8, preferably $5, and that way, towards the $1. That's not always easy to do, depending on the bookstore and the prices and what have you. But that's just my guess, because again, I didn't write down the number of books I bought or the value, but I have been trying to do that in this little notebook here. Okay, so I read 24 books. I brought in roughly 20, and then I read 8 of my own books for my shelves, and I outside of this, I picked up or DNF'd or unhauled, what have you, 3 books. So that's 11 books off my shelf that I have read or unhauled, and I brought in 20. So that's not as good as I would like, because I've been trying to like reverse that number. Reading more of the books off my shelf than I bring in. But I was on vacation, and it's not like I'm gonna go to those bookstores anytime soon, or if ever, some of these places. So yeah, that's just what it is, and I've been doing really good all the rest of the year, and I have a feeling I'm gonna stick to my guns going into this the rest of the year, so I can take a hit, if you will, on the month of April. So let's see here. As far as the readathons I participated in 3 of them, and I can't remember off the top of my head all of the different creators for these readathons, but I will try my best and leave links in the description below for all of the creators for the readathons. So let's see. I did Amish in April, and that was hosted by Elizabeth over at Lizzie Faye Loves Books, and Sarah at The Bookish Knitter. Those are the 2 I can remember off the top of my head. And so for that readathon, I read 2 books for that, and they're both authors that I have read before. So let me pull them up for you. Oh no, one author I read before, and then one else brand new to me. Okay, so I read by Suzanne Woods Fisher, The Choice, Lancaster County Secrets, and I'm not going to go into any detail really with any of these books because there's a lot, but this is an author I discovered, I want to say 5 or 6 years ago, and she, I feel like, is known for her trilogies. She writes a lot of trilogies, and sometimes they're interconnected with others by their place setting, and sometimes you'll see characters in other books, but really they're standalone books, but also like you can't see the characters mingle in with the trilogy. This is the first book in that series, and this is one of her older books that she's published, and I have wanted to read it for a while, ever since I discovered this author, like I mentioned, 5 or 6 years ago. So this has been on my TBR for that whole length of time, but thanks to the Amish in April readathon, I finally got to this one. And then the other book is from Kindle Unlimited. I started in January for the first time ever. I signed up for the Kindle Unlimited subscription, and so I've been trying my best to read at least a couple, preferably 4 or 5 Kindle Unlimited books to make it worth the purchase. And so I read Amish Knitting Circle by Karen Anna Vogel, and this had a bind up of basically, I think it was 8 or 10 little novellas, but this is just one book that contains all of them. So this one says Smicksburg Tales 1, and that's just like the first novella that's in here. And this is very much an Amish drama, like the choice was as well. I mean, this one is much more of like a relationship drama where she has to, again, I don't want to go into too much detail. All these, I'll be here forever. But yeah, she just basically has to decide, is she going to stay with someone she knows in the heart of her hearts that isn't right for her, or should she, move on and face the choice of being alone, and finding someone better for her, better suited for her, and like really it's all about her growing up, but going from a teenager to becoming an adult and making adult decisions. But this one is much more of a family community drama where it focuses on many different women who are part of the knitting circle, and they're all going through their own trials and tribulations of life. It's one of those, like, I would say, like a women's fiction kind of story, but with Amish themes, and it was very nice. And I'm going to continue on with both of those series. Okay, so let's see here. I don't know. I'm going to my notes. I know the readathons I was in. The next one is, this one. I did need to pick up my notebook because this is a one where I keep misremembering the name of the readathon. This is People April, and I read 5 books for this, and I tried to pick books off my shelf because I have so many nonfiction books. It's not even funny. Like, I have an entire bookcase here. It's like including the very top shelf, and then I had to when I was putting away my books from my recent book haul, I had to shift them around to now I have 2 shelves at the very bottom here that are now nonfiction. I wouldn't mind if I end up having 2 bookcases that are nonfiction and 1 that's fiction. I wouldn't say no to that. But so I did peruse my shelves, and I read quite a bit from them. I'll just mention quickly the one that I read digitally, and this is The Dry Divide by Ralph Moody. And I can't remember the number in the series. Like, he wrote many like memoir, autobiography books from his childhood through becoming an adult. It starts out in the Denver area of Colorado, way back when it was not even a city. Like one of those like cow-punching little itty-bitty towns, and it eventually blows up. But and this one he's later in life, and I want to say it's book 7 or 8. I think I just have 1 more to go, which I'm very sad about because I've really liked reading the series. I've read it off and on throughout the years, and I really do like his writing style and just capturing his childhood, which is very unique because he had a lot of family ups and downs where their finances, like they were all like the mother and the sister, they like fight tooth and nail to make a living, and they're very, very hard workers, and so is Ralph. So at a very young age, he becomes like a cow. What do you call it? Like a cattle driver in a way. When he's like, I want to say at that time, like it's been a couple years since I read that one, but I want to say he was like 10 or 12, maybe 14 at the most. Doing that really hard, risky job. But yeah, I really do like the series. It's like the whole like Western feel to it. And then I read a couple, like 4 physical books off my shelf. So I wanted to mix it up with, like, I have a letter collection here, some journals and biographies, and just a good mix. So I have Lucy Breckenridge of Grove Hill, The Journal of a Virginia Girl, 1862 to 1864, and there she is here. And this kind of was like a family drama in a way because it mentions off and on, this is her diary collection, and it mentions off and on how she's like engaged and meeting different men that could potentially be her husband, and then the guy that she ends up with is just not the one for her, and she knows that, and it abruptly ends with her death. I mean, at the end it talks about her death, and she had a very sad life at the end of it, even though she very, very much came from the rich high class society, and she didn't really I mean, she had worries, you know, in the Civil War, but, you know, with her brothers and all of that, but her own life, you know, she was kind of like skated by, you know, out, you know what I mean? Didn't get hit hard with it at all. But yeah, then it just abruptly ended horribly. So yeah, I mean, not her die, but like I said, like the appendix and all that. So yeah, there's that one. And then I read the letter book of Eliza Lucas Pinckney, 1739 to 1762, by Elise Pinckney. And so this is like, you know, they're like basically a century apart. And this one was really good. I had this on my shelf for quite a bit and happy to have read it. But she is famous for her children. Let me find it here. Two sons, Charles Coatsworth Pinckney and Thomas Pinckney, are the two. So I was happy to, you know, learn more about this family, because when I picked up this book, I recognized the name, but didn't know much about it. So there's that one. And then I read 2 Laura Ingalls Wilder inspired books, because I have several or multiple biographies of her on my top shelf here. So I have Laura Ingalls Wilder, A Writer's Life by Pamela Smith Hill. And before reading this book, she is most known to me for The Pioneer Girl. She helped edit that. And so I was greatly looking forward. But again, this is another book I have had on my shelves for years, basically ever since I read Pioneer Girl, but not much, you know, later, that many years have passed before I picked this one up. But it's just been sitting there lingering on my shelf. But yeah, this one didn't surprise me at all with what it had. Like, very, like, because I've read many biographies of Laura Ingalls Wilder, and I've read all of her work, all of her books, and so, yeah. I mean, but I was still, like, happy to have read it, and for a lot of you who haven't read a lot about her, this contains a wealth of knowledge about the writing aspect of her life, and it's remarkable how, you know, she, you know, wrote the Little House on the Prairie series so late in life, after, you know, trying multiple editions of her autobiography, Pioneer Girl, and then before that, writing as a rural farm journal. So yeah, she went through some things as well. And then I have a itty bitty book that is Laura's Album, a remembrance scrapbook of Laura Ingalls Wilder, compiled by William Anderson. William Anderson has many small books, and this one's all pictures. And so on the back here, you have Laura and Almanzo, and then you have Carrie, Mary, and Laura here, and then it's just full of pictures and little information bits, and let's see, it's just full of, you know, it's like a biography, because it goes like every decade. So this is 1890 to 1900, and just goes through, and then it had a lot of pictures that I've never seen before. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to pick up this book, not necessarily for the biography part, but there you go. Okay, so then the last readathon is Old School April. And let's see here. Okay, for Old School April, I read 6 books. And these were like childhood throwbacks, things like that. And so, again, I went to my children's and middle grade shelf. And so I picked up 3 books from that, along with some ebooks. So I have a Dear America book, West to a Land of Plenty, The Diary of Teresa Angelina Biscardi, New York to Idaho Territory, 1883. These are kind of the books that inspired my love of historical fiction, along with Laura Ingalls Wilder as a kid. And a commenter, I want to say, I'm trying to remember who the commenter was, I think it was Chloe, had mentioned, oh, I wonder if he's on audiobook. And I checked my library, and my library, I think it had like 15 or 16 audiobooks of this. So I am going to check those out, because I didn't even think these were available as ebooks. So yes, I'm going to use this before I put it back on my shelf. I'm going to leave this out so I can remind myself to borrow some of those books. But yeah, these are fun. They're like told in diary form, and it gives you, it goes all over, you know, throughout history and different regions. And so this was an interesting take on it, because they're going from New York to Idaho, which, you know, isn't your typical Oregon Trail kind of story, which I greatly appreciated. And then I read Sleepover Friends, Where's Patty by Susan Saunders, and I picked this up. It says 40 cents, but I remember it was like half off when I got it. So it was 20 cents, and I was curious to see if it would be similar to The Babysitter's Club, because this series was actually mentioned, I if I can, oh, it's way up there. I can't reach it. But there was a published collection of all about 80s and 90s, except really 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, different children's like popular series. And this one was mentioned as like a knockoff of the Babysitter's Club. You know, same as like the Goosebumps. There's been several like knockoff or, you know, different interpretations of that. You know, because they were so popular, so they, you know, different authors are kind of like trying to ride the coattails in a way. But this was nowhere near as good as the Babysitter's Club. And I didn't read the Babysitter's Club or this series as a kid, but I'm using it as a throwback because it's potentially what I could have been reading as a kid. But yeah, this was nowhere near as good. It does follow, you know, this group of friends here, and they're going on an excursion, but it left a lot to be desired. And then I read Norma Fox Mazer Silver. It was kind of like a moody cover here. And as a teenager, or like a middle schooler, you know, I was all about like the moody kind of books, or like, you know, struggling, you know, kids like struggling with school or parents or what have you. And so I would eat this up like catnip. And I might have read this as a kid. I can't remember. But this is about a young girl called Silver. And what is her full name? Let's see. Because that was her last name that she went by. But Sarah Beth Silver. And so she ends up going to a new school because her mom, both of them are living in a trailer park, but they're able to move from one of the trailers to like the trailers that are on the edge of the border, and that puts like, you know, the like entranceway or whatever, and that puts them in the rich school district. And so the mom really wants her to get a good education, and so, you know, she loses all of her, not loses them all, but, you know, she not loses all of her friends, but you have to make all these new friends with all these super rich, and she thinks, you know, out on the outset, like very egotistical, snobby kids. But then, you know, she learns that they're all going through different problems, even if they're not money problems. And, you know, like, you know, basically we're all on even footing, you know, in a way. We're all going through life. And so whether you have money or not. And so, yeah, this was a quick, cute story. And I have several other books by Norma Fox Mazer on my shelf to get to. And then I have a couple on here that were ebooks. So I read a couple of the, like I mentioned, the Kindle Unlimited books. I read Francine Pascal's Sweet Valley High number 15, Promises, and this one says, somehow Jessica will get rid of Betsy. And so Jessica is like the conniving twin of the Sweet Valley twins, and you know, she wants her way. She wants the cute boys and wants no one else to pay attention to her, you know, and no one else to pay attention, you know, she doesn't want the guys to pay attention to anyone else but her, you know, that kind of thing. And then number 16 is Rags to Riches. Look Who's After Roger Barrett. And I read these a while ago, so I can't exactly remember the storylines for them, but I just wanted to make my way through them, and again, use up some of those Kindle Unlimited books, not use them up, but, you know, read some so that I can get my money's worth in a way. And then the other one, Beverly Cleary, Ramona's World. I read this for a reading group, and this is the last book in the series for that one, I think. But yeah, that one I feel like needs no introduction or reintroduction by me. So yeah, those were the 3 Kindle books, and then I had the 3 here. So there you go. Sorry for the kind of rambly, all over the place wrap up. I read a couple other books that didn't fit into those 3 readathons, but I feel like going over those 3 is plenty for this video. The ones I wanted to focus on this month, in the month of April. But yeah, let me know if you participated in any of these readathons, and what are some of your favorite books from these readathons. As I'm saying that, I should really quickly pick some of my favorites. So let me see here. Probably for the biography, I would go for the people in April. I would pick The Dry Divide, because again, I really like the series. Like, runner-up would be like the picture collection, because that was kind of neat. And then for the children's books, I would go with Silver. And then for Amish in April, let me see, let me go back to my pictures here. I would go with The Choice over the, I like, these are hard, there's only 2 of them. But yeah, just because I've read more books from this author that I could recommend her more than the other author that I've only read the 1 book from. Yeah, so those were my 3 favorites from the month of April. But anyway, I'll talk to you soon. Thanks, BookTube.